Welcome back to the Piping Pastor. Well, since we had recently concluded that classic sermon, not the series, just that sermon that we were on, I thought it might be nice to take a little break and get back to the Poetry in the Bible series. For that today, I am smoking in my little bent acorn meerschaum pipe, complete with the silver band. And in this, I'm smoking some Bag In from Country Squire. I saw recently Mutton Chop is in a series on Country Squire tobaccos. Which I think is great. I think the more we can support these small blending houses, the better off we all are. Just recently discovered that apparently there's a blender not too far away from where I am in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So I found from one of my parishioners who's a cigar smoker. He and I were having a chat the other day, and he knows I smoked a pipe, and he's like, "Have you been up there?" And I was like, "No, I didn't even know it was there." He's like, "Yeah, it's like a." He doesn't smoke pipe tobacco, so he said, "I think he makes like his own blends." So, but it's kind of it's close, but not real close. It's a couple hours away. So I'm gonna have to do a bit of research first because I don't want to drive 2 hours up there to find out that it's basically a cigar shop with some lame 1Q and stuff like that. Just put it into bigger jars and relabeled. I want to find out if this guy really does blend this stuff. So when I discover that, I will let you know. In any case, you may notice, keen-eyed observers, that I have a little mark on the back of my hand. The wife and I took the two younger kids to go see some Luca Libre. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's like Mexican professional wrestling. It was a good time. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't know a top level Luca Libre wrestler from anyone else, but I think it'd be fair to say that these were not the A-listers. Tickets were like $10. It was at a local gym. $10 for total. The kids got in for free. Everyone 17 and under gets in free, and adults for $5 a person. But they put on a heck of a show. They tried. They worked really, really hard. There was a bunch of little kids there with the masks on, and they're all getting into it. So it was a fun time. Those of us of a certain age will remember the WrestleMania days of the 1980s in the United States. Remember when I was a kid, I was very much into that. This was not that, but it was a good time. Well, so I had mentioned that I found this book of poetry in a local bookstore here a few weeks ago. I thought it would be a good one to restart this Poetry in the Bible series with. Because it's written by a Palestinian poet who actually he died in 2011. But he lived in Israel for basically his entire life, but basically moved further into Israel, into Nazareth, actually, as a refugee after the 6-Day War, when he was a child. So his poetry kind of recounts that whole experience as a child, and then essentially growing up as a Palestinian Muslim in Nazareth, Israel. And he sold souvenirs to Christian tourists during the day, studied poetry at night, and then eventually published this book here. Um, it covers all the poetry he wrote from 1971 to 2005. And there's one in here in particular that I think it's poignant, but I think it also offers us a lesson. So without further ado, I shall get into it. This is called Fooling the Killers. Kasim, I wonder now where you are. I haven't forgotten you after all these years, long as the graveyard wall is long. I always ask the grass of the field about you, and the dirt paths. Are you alive? With your poise, and your cane, and your memories? Did you marry? Do you have a tent of your own, and children? Did you make it to Mecca? Or did they kill you at the foot of the Hill of Tin? Or maybe you never grew up, Kasim, and managed to hide behind your mere 10 years, and you're still the same old Kasim, the boy who runs around and laughs and jumps over fences, who likes green almonds and searches for birds' nests. But even if they did it, Kasim, if shamelessly they killed you, I'm certain you fooled your killers, just as you managed to fool the years, for they never discovered your body at the edge of the road, and didn't find it where the rivers spill or the shelves of the morgue, and not on the way to Mecca, and not beneath the rubble. And no one saw you concealing your corpse, and no one will ever set eyes on you, and no earthly breeze will encounter a bone of your body, a finger of your hand, or even a single shoe. Kasim, you fooled them. I always envied you, Kasim. Your skill at hiding in the games of hide and seek we played when we were barefoot at dusk 40 years ago, when we were little boys. A sad poem about loss. And on one level, the loss of his friend Kasim, who he's not sure if he's alive or dead. But on another level, the sadness of the loss of his own childhood and his own innocence. He's writing this poem to describe how um, growing up the way he did, his childhood was taken away. It disappeared. And he places the memories of his childhood with his friend Kasim. They're kind of bonded together in this memory. And that's why he's always asking the grass and the dirt paths about Kasim. You know, he's asking about his childhood, his lost friends. And there's a lot of grief there, and there's a lot of mourning there. But there's no reconciliation. Poetry has a great way of reflecting the human condition. But in this instance, not only is it reflecting the human condition, it's kind of letting us know where the poet is, and that all these years later, 40 years later, he still doesn't have that kind of closure, that kind of understanding. The Bible says that blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. In this, the process of mourning that he's going through or has been through is stunted because he's seeking out that childhood that was lost. He's seeking out that time of gaiety and time of freedom and time of friendship with his young friend Kasim. And he's not going to find it, and he can't find it. And he realizes that towards the end of the poem, where he says, you'll never be found. They won't find you, but I won't find you either. We as human beings come to that conclusion if we mourn on our own. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Those were the words of Jesus. Those were the words of God incarnate. That's Jesus letting us know that to mourn is normal. It's natural. It's something that we should do with any kind of loss. But it's not something we can do on our own. If we attempt to go through mourning and just tough it out, just gut it out, or worse still, try to ignore it or try to work through things on our own, we're never going to get that kind of comfort, closure, and peace that we do with Jesus Christ, that we do when we seek reconciliation of that time of mourning with God. You can write beautiful poetry. You can express yourself to a therapist. Those are all good things. They're all helpful things. But at the end of the day, we need that divine other. We need that intervention of God if we are to be truly comforted in our mourning. I think this poem does a good job too of also humanizing what people go through in those kind of circumstances. And as I said, it's poignant now as we've moved into the next stages after the Israeli-Palestinian conflict here recently, and we move into the stages of rebuilding and reconciliation, and hopefully some form of healing after this, um, whatever that ends up looking like. There's going to be a lot of situations just like this, and there's going to be a lot of people going through mourning of different types. And it's important to remember that during those times, God is there. God is powerful. God is the comforter, and God's the one we need to get through those things. So, in any case, I'm going to return here to my meerschaum pipe. I hope you have a lovely week. As always, happy reading.